about mental health, DJing, 45, Twitch, lockdown, online communities, and anything else we sort of go to. I've got my guests today. We've got, first of all, Jody Vandenburg, and then we've got Mark Lancaster. So I'm just going to check live. I think we're probably live. Yeah, we are live. That's cool. Right. So if we start perhaps with you, Jody, I've put up your bio in the event group, and obviously, you know, you've told us quite a lot of interesting stuff. So you used your student loan to buy a pair of Technics. When was that? And did you know then that, you know, DJing would be a big part of your life?
I don't know why it wasn't a lot sooner, to be honest. I've been into music like ever since I was very, very small, and I remember getting MTV when I was 7 years old and watching that. And my mum bought my dad an old like jukebox, and so me and my brother and sisters used to dance around that like all the time. And it was this huge big Wurlitzer thing that was like right by the front door is the only place you could put it. So as soon as you entered the house, like everyone could see it. So yeah, I'm sure like every DJ really, they wish they started earlier so they could buy the records when they were cheaper and have more of them. But it kind of came about because I was just kind of out, buying some birthday presents for some friends that had decks, and was really into UK hip hop then. It was, I guess, 2000, 2001, and was kind of running around Berwick Street in the days. And someone selected, I was looking for, I think, for some jest stuff, and selected, said, "Oh, we don't have that, but go, Mr. Bongos will have that." And I was like, what's Mr. Bongos? And so I kind of ran around to Poland Street, and obviously it was just like I never went upstairs, but it's just a hip hop mecca downstairs of just like all the hip hop vinyl you could possibly want. And I found that all the UK hip hop I wanted to listen to was on vinyl. So I just remember buying like everything I could right there and then, and obviously needed a record player to play it on. And I found down the road was a DJ shop near me in like Kentish Town, and they had a second-hand pair of decks, and someone had just literally bought them and then brought them back, and they were like $5.50 for the pair.
Wow. When was it? What year do you reckon?
That would have been 2001.
2000, yeah, $5.50 is still a pretty good steal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be lucky to get one decent-ish Technics these days, I suppose, or well, it depends. But
yeah. And then, as it happened, we were then burgled on like the Christmas straight after, and they took those. But with the insurance, I managed to get like an even more brand new pair. The first one was 1200s. I managed to get like a brand new pair of 1210s and a much better mixer out of that.
Nice.
Obviously, it was a horrible experience, but it worked out well for me.
Yeah. And then, Mark, what about you then? So, you know, you started DJing with, I think, the Blow Up Records crew, didn't you? And Paul Tolkien.
Well, I mean, that was well before Blow Up started, actually. This was I've known Paul Tolkien, the guy who runs Blow Up, since we were kids, 15. And I used to buy my records in a chemist shop that he used to work in. And I used to go in there and buy my singles from him because they were singing. And anyway, he used to get told off because we used to talk about music all the time. Anyway, he started up a club in about 83, something like that, in Southend, called the Monkey House. He just had a couple of decks and stuff, and he used to said to me, do you want to just do a couple of half hour before I start, or an hour before we start? And that's what I used to do. Occasionally I'd play, 20 minutes if he wanted to go and have a dance with his girlfriend or whatever. And then years later, it was about, I think 94, I think Blow Up properly stopped. He had several different clubs after that. So that was my first experience.
Yeah.
I didn't really buy any decks until, I bought decks about six years ago. First time I ever had any. I mean, I had record players, but I never had decks and mixer until then.
Yeah. Makes a huge difference once you've got the setup, doesn't it, really?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, my uncle died and left me some money, so I bought some decks with some of that. That's where I'd got back into vinyl by that point, but then I thought, I'm going to buy proper decks. So.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Just going to take an opportunity to say hello to a few people we've got already. We've got DJ Double P, who was a guest last time. We've got 45 Finchin. We've got Kev Clark, Funky Flavors, Hey Lee, Keith Fowler, Mr. Musto was guest last time round. Mr. Lob in Melbourne Morning. Yeah, so we've got a few of the crew in. Certainly a few of the 45 Kings collective in here.
Bounce has just joined us.
Who? Sorry, say that again.
Danny Bounce has just joined us too.
Oh, Danny Bounce, yes, big up Danny Bounce. Yeah, I think, and BMX Steve. I think there's going to be some lurkers. I know that Graham said he's going to be watching, but he'll be lurking.
Yeah, my folks are going to lurk as well, I think, because they're not really DJs.
Are they a little bit old for Twitch? Is that what it is? And the emoji?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I had to explain, and my sister as well. I think they had to explain to them how to use Twitch. So.
Danny Bounce is getting the biscuits. Well, I'm saving the confectionery corner section for a little bit later, but we'll come back.
Yeah, they started early.
He started already. Okay, all right. Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things we're here to talk about, which is important, I think, is obviously mental health. And I think, Mark, I've got you on there. When would you say was the first time you sort of realised that there were any mental health issues that you needed to deal with, and what do you think caused them, and how have you dealt with them?
Yeah, first time I ever really, I think probably ever since I was a teenager, really. I think we all, we get periods of time when we're feeling low, but we don't really ever address it. We just push it in the back of our head. Yeah. But I suppose the first time was around about 20 years ago. Maybe just around that kind of time, maybe 1999, 2000, something like that. I had a period of, all I can explain it as, really severe anxiety, but it was more a physical manifestation of it rather than mental. So I'd get really bad flutters in the chest and stuff, and it really disturbed me because I didn't know what was happening, and it would happen. It wasn't just periods of 10 minutes; it was constant. So I went to the doctors, and he prescribed beta blockers and stuff like that. But then slowly it sort of manifested itself into just, what I would describe now as depression, really. I just felt really low. What caused it? I think catalyst for me, I'm a single bloke, and most of my life I've been single. And I think, you get to a point in time. I was mid-30s then. You think, most of my contemporaries have settled down. They've got kids, or are starting to have children, or they're getting married. Yeah. And I'm single. I'm still single, and I've been single since I've had girlfriends, but at that time, I might have had a girlfriend for 6 or 7 years. Maybe 5 years, maybe 5 years. Anyway, something like that. And that was the catalyst, just being on my own. And over the last 20 years, luckily, I've not had another particular episode of depression for about 8 or 9 years, maybe 8 years, something like that. I think it's because, I took steps to address it by going to counselling, and stuff like that. And I think you can get some, I've learned techniques. I even went to hypnotherapy and stuff like that, and learned some techniques to sort of counteract that feeling. And I think also, I'm 55 now, and I've got to a point where you have to try and accept yourself a bit more, and accept your lot. And I might not necessarily particularly like my situation, but I've accepted it more, and therefore I think by accepting it, I don't really have long periods of depression anymore. Occasionally, everybody gets days when they feel fed up, and I'm fed up with this lot, but that's the way I've handled it.
How did you get to that point where you sort of accepted it? Because obviously it's quite difficult, and I think probably as a man to accept that there may be something wrong with you, or to accept that you can't control yourself, or you can't control your situation. I mean, how did you get to the point where you accepted and were able to sort of move forwards a little bit?
I think going to the counselling. I mean, I had quite a long period of counselling over not all in one time, but over a period of 10, 12 years. I went several times and had several ups and downs. I think taking the step for the counselling is the thing. I went to the doctors and I was on antidepressants for quite a while, and it wasn't really working. All it was doing was suppressing those feelings, really. And luckily, where I live in Southend, they offer you, to start with, 6 sessions of free counselling. I think it might be general. I'm not sure about the rest of the country, but around here we do. So I went to 6 sessions initially, and the counsellor actually said, we were talking and we got on very well, and she said, I think you might benefit from going on some courses. So I went on, I can't remember the name of it now. I should have looked this up before I come on, but it's a form of counselling, but more in depth. So the people who went on, the actual benefit of going on this course was, if you wanted to become a counsellor in the end. So I went on this, and it was over 18 months or something like that. There's 3 courses, and I met some nice people, and I've got one of my best friends I met on that course. I've known her for 20 years, and we're really good mates now. So going on that, and then going on subsequent counselling over a period of years. But I think the real breakthrough for me was when I had some hypnotherapy. And people talk about that and say that, sometimes does it work, does it not? And it doesn't work for everybody. And some people go for trying to give up smoking or drugs or drink or being afraid of spiders or whatever, but it can all work. And there was a point where I was very, very low, and there was a particular reason for it. I won't particularly mention it here, but it was to do with a woman that I liked. And I can remember her put me under, although I was, fully aware. And she said, "You're tied to this person, aren't you? Tied to this person?" I said, "Yeah, I am. And she said, "There's a rope there." I said, "Can you see it?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, no, sorry, it wasn't that." She said, "You're in the dark, aren't you, with this? You're in the dark." I said, "Yes, I am." It was feeling of dark and helplessness. She said, "Over there on that wall, can you see a light switch?" "Yeah." She said, "Go and turn it on." In my head, I pressed this button and the light came on. And it was like that. Literally, not the end of the depression, but a whole weight lifted on my shoulders. And that was such a powerful thing to happen.
Yeah.
I've never experienced anything like it before. And it just made me realise that a lot of these things are out of your control. And I think sometimes you just have to, and it made me realise that being with someone is not necessarily the end, the goal. Sometimes if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and I still feel like that now. I mean, I'd rather not be single, but I am. That's the way it is. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have a life on your own and fulfilling and enjoy yourself and whatever. And as I said before, sometimes it's tough. But having said that, this whole lockdown situation, because I'm used to living on my own, I think I might be better equipped to handle all this in some respects.
Yeah, I can see that.
People say, "Oh, I've not been out, I've not seen anybody," and I say, "Well, that's quite normal for me, really." I mean, I think I mentioned when we were having a chat yesterday, when I spoke to you online and you and Jody online yesterday, that was the first face-to-face conversation. I speak to my parents and I spoke to my sister on the phone, but like this, that was over a week.
Yeah.
But
I think a part of that is also the way we sort of live these days, isn't it? I mean, you sort of see people, but we're all so busy that you only get to spend a small amount of time with people, even when you can do it in the real world.
That's right.
And it's the quality time, really, isn't it? And rather than quantity. And obviously, just having this conversation, in the day, I've chatted to you through Twitch and messages and stuff, but obviously sitting down and talking properly for like 5-10 minutes, and it's something that the men don't really do. I don't think men don't.
Not really. I mean, I've tried to address it. I mean, I'm quite open about things, so it's never really worried me to talk about this kind of thing. And I think me and Jody had a bit of a chat this morning. I mean, we said sometimes people do overshare, and that's fair enough, But I think sometimes it's better to actually talk about it than other people who just suffer in silence. And I know people. I've met people before, and you never knew what the kind of state they were in because they never ever mentioned it.
I think as men we do a really good job of just hiding it.
Is that kind of it's almost like that toxic masculinity thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's deemed a weakness to talk about feelings and to have feelings and to show anything like this, and I think it's the opposite. I think that it's a sign of strength to talk about stuff like this and be honest and open and chat about stuff. I mean, even the most open person doesn't talk about everything. I'm as guilty as anybody. But actually, if you're feeling crap and you need help about it, don't necessarily need to talk to your mates. Talk to someone, because there are people out there. When we put up organisations and stuff, there are people there to talk to. Go to your doctor, get some counselling, because it's those people you go to for counselling. That you might go to one and you might not get any rapport with that particular person, but then you find someone else, and they are trained to listen to you. They never give you advice because that's not their job. Their job is to listen to you, and then for you to come to your own conclusions about how you feel and how to address that. And it might take, you might go 6 weeks and you feel great. It might take you 10 years. It might take you a lifetime.
It's really interesting, what you're saying about listening. I was talking to my wife at lunchtime about this, and she was like, as a man, so for example, she comes to me with something. I think as a man, automatically I think, right, I've got to try and solve this problem, or I've got to come up with ideas, or I've got to try and somehow fix it. And that could be to do with the way I work and what I do for a job and stuff like that. And that's not really what people are coming to you for. She's not coming to me for a solution or something to fix it, but automatically I'm thinking, what can I do to fix it? She wants you to listen.
So, some people, they will. If people want you to help them, they will ask you. Generally, but it's not always. I've had friends of mine who they just bring up and have a chat, and it's just that's what it's about. They just want to have a chat, and I think that's something I learned by going on these counselling courses. Was just that's not the. It's not the problem solving is not the point. It's actually talking about it, and you. In the end, the only person that can actually sort this out is you.
Yeah.
I could solve my problem of being single by going on dating sites and going on hundreds and hundreds of dates and whatever until I find some. But that is not me.
Yeah.
I find that kind of thing very, very difficult. I'm not a particular social animal. If I go to, this is what we'll talk a bit about maybe later on. That's why I love DJing, because if I DJ at a party, at least I don't have to talk to anyone at the party, because I'm the and I'm the other person that sits on the side of them and I'm not good at mixing. But if I'm DJing, that's different, because people come and talk to you.
I think we're all do that. I mean, I know I am. It's sort of if you're DJing, you don't have to talk to anyone, or if you're the DJs, or if you're part of whatever event it is, you can just go and stand behind the decks and you don't, and it's
a barrier, and it's a defense, but it helps me because if I wanted to talk to someone, I feel like I'm imposing on them by going up to talk to them. But if you're playing a record and someone comes over to you and says, "What's that?"
Yeah.
And then you start a conversation. That's a completely different thing, and I'm all right then. But it's that, So, but you have to find your own solutions. I think that's in the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Jody, I'm going to bring you in now. Maybe if we deal with this bit. Obviously, we've heard Mark saying that he hasn't been going online dating. Before we get into some of the more stuff that you've told us about and a bit more of the heavier stuff, but you said you have been sort of doing a bit of online dating in lockdown. I'm just quite interested as to how that's sort of gone and how that's impacted at all on your health and your mental health.
My health, I don't know. My wallet, it's so much cheaper, to be honest. First of all, doing video chats and then going for walks and maybe getting a coffee or something like that. But yeah, at the time of the first lockdown, I've had some flatmates move around now. I was living with one couple and also my sister, who's got a boyfriend, and I was the only single one in the house, and I was starting to see someone, and obviously you couldn't have people back to the house, and so when I kind of broached the topic with my flatmates, would you mind if I kind of brought someone round or went round to hers? My flatmate said he really was compassionate and understanding and understood that some of his friends were single too and kind of needed to meet people and not feel quite so isolated and alone. And I was so appreciative. I wanted to just give him a big hug, but as we were saying, we don't show our feelings or kind of really embrace each other like that sometimes. But that really meant a huge deal to me. It meant a lot to me because I was just I really felt kind of seen and understood there. But yeah, it is challenging. I feel kind of a bit nervous kind of now. It's fine if I'm just okay, I'm just talking to you two, but if it's kind of, I think, it's being broadcast and there's people chatting and stuff like that, and then I'm kind of suddenly feel a bit kind of on edge. I can't remember what my point was, but it was going to be fascinating. But in terms of online dating, that's what I was saying. My brain can kind of think myself out of anything, to be honest. So I've realized that it's just kind of the anticipation, not just of dating, of anything new, like a job interview or first day at a job, first time streaming or streaming with someone new or playing a new venue. For me, it's just the anticipation more than anything else, when I just kind of want to run away. And if I can just kind of stay with those uncomfortable feelings and get through it, I kind of realize it will be okay. But I really it used to really get grate me kind of when people be it'll be fine, it'll be all right, just about anything, because I'd be really kind of suffering. And it'd be really hard to really believe that. So I don't really like doing the video dates. I try, and I'm kind of just trying to date people that are kind of nearby me in South London anyway, so it's kind of easy to meet up and go for a walk if they're up for that. And similarly to Mark, I've been for years without relationships and really been quite unhappy, to be honest. And I've done a lot of work on myself around that, and did have a nice relationship with one girl for a few months in the summer last year. And it was a lot of fun, and it kind of ended at a pretty bad time for me. But I was kind of able to weather it and kind of keep on going and moving on through, kind of maybe similar to what Mark said. I get attached quite quickly, sometimes quite easily. So I've kind of had a lot of my kind of mental health difficulties have been around separating from a relationship. At first it was very close male friendships, and then now more or less it's kind of romantic relationships that maybe started and went quite fast and then didn't go anywhere, or someone I liked that I didn't want it to end. So yeah, that's what I've noticed. A lot of people kind of say, "Oh, fear of rejection." I find actually whether rejection okay. For me, it's the actual process of the kind of separating of the relationship.
Okay.
So.
You told us, well, you told me, and obviously Mark as well, when we were sort of talking about aspects of what's gone on in your life, that sadly your brother died of an overdose, sort of in July, I think 2019, wasn't it? Must have been tragic. I mean, how did that affect you, and how did you sort of process and deal with that?
I'm still dealing with it, and I don't know if it's something you ever get over. But he had a lot of mental health, really bad problems for a handful of years, like up to that point. And I guess, yeah, I had a really direct therapist at the time who said I kind of really needed to prepare for this kind of reality, and I talked about it with my mum too. And it's for me, yeah, it was just a life-changing experience, really. And I've had a lot of bereavement, like counselling as well. Like with Criztoz, I did some group counselling, which was great. They had loads of different exercises for kind of processing seeing the grief, where it's kind of like drawing pictures or doing kind of clay models, or something like doing something with like arranging some stones and picking out postcards and sharing objects that meant something to you. And I had a really great one-on-one counsellor who was kind of like a bit of like a Mr. Motivator. He was just like, he saw kind of what was going on inside me and just wanted to kind of really lift me up, kind of like a big brother kind of thing. Then most recently I've been doing it's a very new group with Samaritans called Facing the Future, which is for people who are survivors of bereavement, suicide, really. And yeah, as I said to you and Mark, like it was an accident. No one believes it was intentional, but I had real difficulty with people at the time referring to it as suicide, because I understood and believed suicide was something that was done intentionally.
Yeah,
very much wasn't. And I felt like a bit of a fraud going to a support group of people who lost loved ones to suicide, because those people's loved ones had decided to do it and mine hadn't. But yeah, apparently it is, like, yeah, even though it wasn't intentional, it was something that he did of his own hand, volition, so it kind of falls into that. But it was kind of all a bit of a blur. And as I said to Mark, like mental health stuff for me, like, is very normalized. I've kind of like, the first time I had the first like kind of clinical depression, I was, I think, 13 years old.
right.
And lots of people in my family have had like mental health issues, and due to this day. And I kind of noticed that I actually kind of have like 7-year cycles. So from 13 to 14, my next one was 21, and the next one after that was 28.
Right.
And at 28, I realized, oh, there's a bit of a pattern here. I'm going to probably have one at 35. I really need to kind of work out how I cope with this, because, I want a family one day. Like, I can't be kind of having this happen over and over again for me. And so, I've been doing some, deep work on myself since like I was 30 years old, really. And it kind of just like, I kind of just like, they say, more will be revealed, peeling the onion. I'm just like, I'm kind of like, kind of pulling off another layer, like right this past few weeks, to be honest, and like, yeah, really digging deep down into my negative kind of thinking. Just only in the past, I think today, to be honest, really trying to shift that. So yeah, that's kind of some of the journey I've been on, really. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's quite. I guess it must be day to day. You know, you're dealing with issues on a day to day basis, and some days are better than others. I mean, I remember, speaking to you a few weeks ago, and I was talking to you about coming on the show, and I think at that stage you weren't in the right place, and you didn't necessarily want to do it. And I mean, but how do you find? Because obviously you said earlier that you overshare quite a lot. Do you find that helps, and how do you feel that people deal with it?
Well, it's kind of the thing about boundaries, really. It's about kind of knowing where to go with it. And my therapist has kind of said to me, like, I need to kind of make sure I'm going to people that are kind of wanting to hear, rather than my kind of thing is I tend to want to go to take it to people that don't want to hear it and aren't available to kind of share or anything like that. So yeah, something I was kind of thinking about when Mark was kind of talking about kind of not having seen many people or spoken to people for a week, and then kind of thinking about kind of the environment that we're talking within now, and kind of the kind of group that kind of has brought us all together, and our activity that's brought us all together. Meditation has been something that's really helped me, and kind of Buddhist talks and philosophy. I don't call myself a Buddhist, but I get a lot from it. And one of the most important parts of Buddhism is what they call the Sangha, the community. The community is the most important thing. And for me, it's been building a network of other people, of going to support groups, doing some work on recovery around codependency, and building a network of people and phone numbers that I can call whenever I'm feeling a certain way, and talk to them and kind of share how I'm feeling. And like you were saying, like, and I felt that with girlfriends too, like they have a problem, I immediately want to fix it. And also when I speak to friends, they immediately want you to fix you, because they don't want to know that you're going through something. They want you to be okay. And it's kind of finding people to talk to that can just listen and kind of identify really with what you're going through. Because I don't always want to be fixed, and there's not always a way to fix things, really. If I'm feeling low and missing my brother, no one can fix that for me. So it's kind of what can kind of work for me in that moment, really. And the same meditation, and at the moment I'm doing a course on meditating on forgiveness, and that is shifting so much, to be honest. So yeah.
And we'll come back to more. I'll come back to you in a minute, Jody. But I mean, again, talking about the community and what we've done in terms of 45 Kings. I mean, I don't think, and 45 Day, and all the live streams and all the other groups and all the other sort of stuff. I don't think we ever saw it as being somewhere where we would build this sort of community where we'd end up properly talking to each other.
Well, yeah.
It's amazing how it's surpassed simply talking about records. Most DJs just talk to the DJs about records. Somehow within the group, and maybe it's lockdown, I don't know, but it seems to have surpassed the sort of superficial looking at 45s into sort of other avenues, which is,
I think you're right. Thing. I mean, I'm trying to remember how I actually got involved with it, to be honest. I seem to remember. No, I do remember. I was watching the Allergies doing one of their Saturday afternoon things, and on I think it was Adam DJing Rackaby, and he had one of the 45 Kings 7-inch slip mats. And I thought, well, they look nice. Where do you get them from? And he said, blah 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 blah. And I don't know, but I think Fat Wax might have been in the room. And he said, message me or whatever,
Yeah.
And you get so, and then from that, I thought, well, it said, well, we've got somewhere along the line. Oh, we've got this thing on Twitch. What's Twitch? I didn't even know what Twitch was then.
Yeah.
You know, that was like what 8 months ago, something like that. And so I come in the room and I watched a few things on the Saturday morning. I thought, oh, this is really good. Yeah, but yeah, suddenly it seemed to be. I think it was every time you go back on a Saturday morning to watch the stream, and it's like the same people are there. And because you're in the chat room, and if you're the type of person who likes going in chat room, and I've done it in lots of different things, and I quite like doing it. So you build up a rapport with people, don't you? And it was like, all you need is someone to say, oh, hello, Mark, how are you? Or, hello, Double D, how Double P, how are you? And all that. And you just start talking to people. And I think it's sort of grown from there. And it just, but it's morphed into something more than just, I mean, it is people talking about records, because we do talk about records and absolute love of it. But it's gone further than that, because, there are a couple of people here. I mean, that's AR is in the chat room, moment, Graham. Me and him have video chats every couple of weeks. We have a chat, grab a cup of coffee and sit down and have a chat for half hour. And that's whether that would have happened if we hadn't had lockdown.
Yeah, speaking of fat wax.
But it probably wouldn't have been. I don't know. It's strange. I was telling him, I talked to my dad this morning about this, and my Facebook friendship has gone up since lockdown started. Has gone up over 1,000.
Wow!
And it's most of them are connected with DJing or music or something. Yeah. It's bands, and that's quite a few people are on the 45 Kings, and they're on Facebook, so you hook up with them, and then there's someone else, and then someone will come over to you, and there's bands, and and it's just gone mad, and it's brilliant, and people talk about social media and saying it's all superficial, but it doesn't have to be, because I know that, we've spoken about this before, haven't we? On a Saturday. We know when all this is over, some of us will get together and we will meet up and we will have a tea. And that doesn't normally happen on social media, because you just see someone, you just see someone, but we know we will, because it's. Yeah.
And I think it will, unless Twitch becomes, unless it starts clamping down on DJing and starting muting streams and things like that with copyright, there's no reason why on a Saturday morning Coffee and Donuts isn't going to carry on, and then people just watch it or listen to it or whatever, and before they go off and do whatever they're doing. But it's I was saying it last time, it's a bit like going into a pub, isn't it? You go into a chat room, the DJ because he's like your mate, or he's your new friend or whatever, and then it's like, oh, hello, whoever else is in there, hi Sideshow, hi Sam, hi Mark, and it's immediately that's a positive thing, immediately it's sort of making you feel welcome, and you've got friends. And I think certainly in this lockdown situation where people have been limited to see their friends in real life, it has a real comfort, I think, for a lot of people.
That's right. I'm going to say, but I speak to the people in the 45 Kings more than I do with some of my friends, because I haven't seen some of my friends. A couple of my mates I've not seen for a year, because it's a year tomorrow, isn't it? The lockdown first happened. I'm not seeing him for a year. And just the way things are, you don't, casual acquaintances down the pub or whatever. I mean, I used to do radio, so, I've not been in the studio for over a year. Because I used to produce the shows as well as do my own. So, you just don't see people. But now, like Saturday morning, Coffee and Donuts, for the last 8 months or so since I've been doing it or watching it, I don't think I've missed one. It's like that's my Saturday morning.
I'm number one Coffee and Donut fan.
But it is part of my Saturday morning. Yeah. I don't necessarily watch all 4 or 5 hours, because I always watch the first 2 or 3 hours, and then I might have to go and do something else. But it's part of my routine now, and it is. Yeah. It's like I think someone just put up on the chat room. It's like watching Soccer AM or whatever, or Swap Shop when you were a kid, or whatever it was.
That's great. 45 lovers Soccer AM equals coffee and donuts.
Yeah, that's right. But it is that, and it's just because there's people that you want to who are there every week, and it's a laugh, and you have a good, and then you start. Okay, well, let's go and watch. I mean, me and you both watched a bit of Sideshow before we come in here.
Yeah.
So I'll go and watch Sideshow. He's on. I'll watch him for 20 minutes. But you do. Although I watched a bit of Sam this morning. I was only in there for 20 minutes, half hour. But Sam was DJing this morning. Sam Tweaks, and you just if someone's on, you go and have a watch for a little bit, and it's a really nice thing to do instead of watching hours and hours and hours of telly. You just watch hours and hours and hours of people on the on your computer.
Yeah, how do you think, I mean, other than the great community, how do you think that's helped your mental health?
Well, it's been great. Yeah, definitely. Because if I hadn't have had this, I mean, a few of my friends, we've got a WhatsApp group and we chat around and we have keep in touch with that, and it goes on all week, and it's all stuff and nonsense, and we talk about all kinds of rubbish. And I speak to my family every day, but apart from that, there's a few friends I've messaged, but it's part of my well-being, definitely, because I know I've made good new friends out of it as well, which has got to be a good thing, isn't it? And
it's proper friendships.
It is proper friendships.
We've all only known each other for since lockdown, really, or short of that. But I think, like I said earlier, these are proper friendships, and there's no reason that they aren't going to carry on, and for the next years or whatever.
The only downside, well, it's not a downside because it's buying records, isn't it? Because buying records is brilliant, but it costs me a blooming fortune.
Well, exactly, like double pieces.
God, I mean, I won't buy any records this month, and then I just bought 40 singles in the last 2 weeks. Okay, sometimes you have to check yourself because it's just I've got to stop.
Yeah.
I think a Sideshow the other week, he said he spent so much money, and he looked and said, "Oh God!" He said, "Oh, so some of that was shipping." I said, "Yeah, Chris, you don't have to justify it to us because we know what you mean. Well, we're all doing it."
I'm going to bring you back in, Jody. You came on Coffee and Donut. I can't remember what it was. It was earlier this year, I think, wasn't it?
It was the one right before Christmas. It was the last one.
Just before Christmas, yeah. And I think you made an interesting point talking about sort of how much you spend on record. I think you said, I don't know how serious you were, but you're like, thank you for making me spend all my money on 45s rather than presents for my Christmas presents for my friends. I don't know how true that is, but I think it's certainly, it's almost treating yourself, isn't it, in a bad way. Buying a record, it's for yourself, it's only for you, and that's got to help your spirits, and it's one of the things Mark mentioned last time about 45s that sort of lift your spirits. But do you find it's an addiction first of all, and then also when we talked before about you mentioned things about one of the things you deal with is sort of process addiction and compulsive behavior. Is 45s and buying records part of that, do you think, or not?
Just compulsive spending generally is, but records is a difficult one because you can never collect all the records.
No, however much you try.
Yeah.
We're having a go. Between us, I think we have got them all.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the bloody shipping costs now. Spending more on the shipping than the record most of the time. But you said they're only for you. Well, they're not only for me because the only one, I'm not being flippant, because I don't have much money, and I'm even overspending the money I do have. So I've had to get so strict with myself about the ones I do buy. Is this going to get people dancing? Is my kind of real kind of bottom line, really. And if I'm a bit I'm not too sure, or it's all right, but I'm going to get tired of it quite quickly, I'm just kind of really brutal with myself and don't buy them. And occasionally there may be a kind of a slower one, and I'm just and it really grabs me, and I will get it. But I'm really pleased that other people are saying that their buying has shot up since the group too, because yeah, it was possibly a bit out of control, and I would get some money, and then I just go straight over to my Discogs cart and just kind of just like lay down so much money of the ones that I miss that I want.
It's dangerous, that Discogs cart.
Yeah.
They're evil. They're both evil.
It just sort of sits there, doesn't it? You got all these records in there that you don't buy first time round, and then you decide to go back, and you might have had a beer or two, and then you think,
"Oh, one out of the car this morning. I bought some, and I thought, oh, that's too much. I've got that on 12. I don't need that on 7 today. I will get it at some point, but I thought, not at this moment. I've already got it on 12. I'll get it again, but the other 3 in there I haven't got. So
yeah.
But that was the first time I've ever done that. So I must be getting better.
Yeah, I guess we're just getting used to the reality of what we're doing. But yeah, so has that addiction affected you in other ways?
What, the spending money and the buying too much records? Well, I guess it does, because sometimes I just haven't had too much money to eat, to be honest. And then I'm looking forward to the day when they're doing coloured vinyls. Hopefully they'll do edible vinyl at some point.
Make that licorice.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I've kind of had to be really strict with myself since the new year, and I've going back to more kind of Serato and buying stuff on digital, and again being even more strict. And unless it's like something that I'm gonna miss, then I really haven't bought too many in the past kind of month or so. And then I see them kind of creeping back now, and the online site Cold Cuts Hot Wax, they're literally down the road from me, so I can save money on postage there. So kind of I've got a load of stuff that's building up to kind of go and pick up from them that I'd be bought.
But I think once the charity shops and record shops and flea markets and boot fairs and all the rest of it, I think that'll hopefully slow things down. Because at the moment, buying online pretty much is the only way you can get anything new, isn't it? Or any records. That'll improve. Jody, how did you find streaming? Because I know you were a little bit nervous when you first did that set. How did you find? Because it's quite a vulnerable position, isn't it? You're putting yourself out there and in front of the camera, and this is me, DJ. How did you find that?
Similar to how I felt about an hour ago. I was like really excited, and then why the hell did I agree to do this?
I'm glad you did agree.
I am, because as I said, it's the anticipation, and kind of nothing is kind of like how I actually think or fantasize it's going to be. I was just like, I have pretty low self-esteem a lot of the time, but I'm not the most interesting DJ to watch, and a lot of the time I can look pretty miserable at the same time, as I'm just kind of in my head. Are people enjoying it? What's going on? All this. But I do believe, and I've got the feedback that I'm good at DJing and what I do, and just playing records and selecting tunes to kind of keep people going. And I don't know if it's maybe because of maybe some of the stuff I've been through too, and my kind of like maybe hypersensitivity to kind of how other people are maybe feeling, that maybe helps me to maybe read a room a bit more, maybe, because like I've got friends that are DJs that play great tunes but don't really seem to read the room so much, and I think that's kind of just as important as the records you're playing. Really. I keep on going off on fascinating tangents and then forgetting what you asked me.
No, but I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously in real life, you're saying playing a bar or a club or whatever, and you can see people, and it's it's a little bit easier to read the room in a way, and sort of you need to have the breadth of music to sort of change it if you need to. But how do you find reading the room in Twitch? Because obviously you're looking at a chat room, and do you think it's the emojis or the comments, or how do you read what's going on, or if people are really? Would you think people tell you more that they're enjoying it. Maybe that's something that Twitch does.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like, what's the positive evidence that I can see around me, really? It's kind of like how many people are in the room, how people are reacting when you play the tune. Has anybody asked what tune this is that's playing? Kind of all those things that I'm sure everyone likes to kind of see.
That's always a good one, isn't it? Especially in a room full of DJs.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And they're like, oh, what's this tune? And you're like, oh, well, it's this one. But that's part of being a DJ, isn't it? Sort of, showing music to other people, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess, when I was doing my coffee and donuts streams, I'm like, okay, I'm a bit nervous, and I'm kind of not the best mixer around, so I'm not going to play any hip hop. Just kind of what songs am I kind of just really enjoying, but also kind of like what songs haven't I seen people play on all the streams, but then kind of balancing it and going, okay, well, I don't want to try and be too cool for the room here, but just kind of like, what records am I enjoying that I want to share, really, and just kind of get myself in a comfortable kind of space, really. That's kind of how I kind of approached the coffee and donuts. Because
Fat Wax put a very interesting comment. I think it's very true, and I think that's why Twitch has been successful for us. Anyway, he says, I always thought the majority of the streams we watch or end up always feel like a safe space, and I think that's very true, isn't it? You go into a room, it's your friends or your colleagues or whatever, and you can play almost whatever you want, and you're not going to get looked down on or anything. There's always going to be a support network there. And I think that's what it's provided to us, support and help. And I think it certainly helped my mental health, because it kept me going. Because I think I was out DJing sort of every sort of weekend, Friday, sometimes Saturdays as well, and then to suddenly go to, right, this is it. I'm sort of stuck indoors. There's no gigs for the future. What can you do? And having that outlet and creativity and being able to sort of show people my music has really helped me, and I think has helped me get through this quite a difficult time that we've had to go through collectively, and I think that's where Twitch has sort of been a success.
I think mine's slightly different, because I've not for a long while really have I had a regular outlet to DJ out. I do the odd party, and I'm doing a party in end of June. Someone's asked me to do one, and I do things like that.
That's cool.
Which is great. So it just may ask me. I've done parties before. It's just a good fun thing to do. But I've got the radio, which is a slightly different thing, and that it did stop for a couple of months, doing it the way I wanted to do it. And I had to sort of I think 2 months I just put together a Spotify playlist and pressed the button and played it out. There was no way of doing it. But no, I've got some kit now and I can broadcast live. So I don't necessarily get immediate feedback from the radio. Afterwards, people say, "Oh, I like the show," which is always a lovely thing to hear, and I know it's great. So yeah. And I think my only it's not a concern at all, because I know everyone's very supportive, but I get a bit of imposter syndrome sometimes, watching lots of guys around, because they're all so good, and I'm what I think what is called a selector. I mean, I don't mix. I don't know how to mix. I don't know how to beat mix, because I've never done digital DJing, so never, and whatever. So I don't scratch. So I play a record and then I play another record, and if I'm lucky, they sound quite similar and they work together. But I'm not really a DJ as such. I think it's a different. I think they're both. I think they're both as valid as each other, but it's not what I do. So sometimes I see some guys and they're mixing stuff up, and you think, mean, there's one I remember really, and is in the room. Tommy T did a thing where he played 45s in 15 minutes. And it was like, how did you just do that? It was absolutely insane. And it sounded like 1:45, a 15-minute 45, but he played 40, and he's like 15 seconds of one. And he was like, how do you even begin to even? How does your mind work? Do you have to work it out beforehand, or is it just? I know.
Yeah, that was insane because
it was brilliant to watch. And it's
Sam.
Was it the Funky Chef? He did something with it, and it's like, God, he's so incredible.
But I mean, the other thing about Twitch is it's been a great leveler, isn't it? You know, you've got your Jazzy Jeffs and your Scratch Bastards, you know, everyone else, and then you've got us, you know, or some of us down who are literally just selecting records or just playing, you know, tunes we like, and it's opened it up.
It has
up for everyone, and I think that's important, because, you know, everyone's got a space and everyone can just get on and play. You know, there's nothing stopping anyone getting on and doing a live stream, and someone will be watching. You know, it starts off with 1 or 2, and then it's only 5 or 10, and then it builds up and whatever. But it's building that little community, and everyone's very supportive, which is what I like. You know, you all go on and, you know, someone's DJing and that you know, I mean, we've got Double P in the house, and you know, I was saying earlier that, you know, he's one of the reasons this show is even started. You know, he was talking to me about, you know, how things had been helpful for him in terms of being part of 45 Kings and live streaming and community and stuff. And then we got chatting and said, well, you know, let's talk about it. Let's see if we can help even one person watching this show idea or you know, thinks of something slightly differently. You know, you just don't know what impact, and it's the same with streaming. I think, you know, you're in a room and you just don't know who's in there, what's going to happen, and what can come out of it. And, you know, if you inspire one person to do something, then it's helping someone else, and that's, I think, where Twitch really comes into its own.
Well, I think, and I think one of my favourite things about watching the Twitch DJs is the amount of music it's introduced me to.
Yeah,
there's stuff, and you think, oh, I've never heard that before. What's that? And, you know, I think Shazam's never had such a kick in since as we started, because everybody's going, what the hell? And then there's always that one because someone's got some kind of bootleg remixy type hip hop thing that is not on Shazam, and what's that? You know, and it's but it's great because you find so much music, and you know, I mean, I've only done a couple. Well, I've only done one Twitch thing, which was for That's AR. You know, and I got such a buzz when someone asked me, "What's that track?"
Yeah.
So, oh, I'm going to go and buy that. And you think, I mean, one of my favourite things I ever did as a DJ, I'll never forget it. I was DJing in a local pub here, and I played. I love every little thing about you, babe. By Sorry to Write.
Yeah.
And the barmaid was serving, and she finished serving. She came out from the bar, crossed the floor, come up to DJ Sam and said, "You've got to tell me what that record is."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, okay, not everybody knows, but it's such a lovely feeling when someone actually asks you what you're playing, and it's just a lovely it's a lovely thing that you've made someone get into a bit of music, and it's something that's even better than that, to be honest. It's great. Sharing it is the most important thing.
But that's, I mean, it's sort of ups and downs, isn't it, with mental health and everything, really, isn't it? You know, it's that sort of high, isn't it, of instant gratification in a way, isn't it? Someone's saying something, you're instantly thinking, oh, that's great, and it's dealing with the sort of lows afterwards, I think, is also an issue. And I find this sometimes in sort of, you know, Jody, you were saying earlier, you know, you get into your head, and I do this a lot. You know, you think you know how something's going to go, and you plan in your head. And again, it's to do with planning and, you know, working out. And I think, okay, well, that's how I can imagine how this event or this set or this whatever's going to happen. And it's never obviously what you imagine it to be. And sometimes you think, oh yeah, you know, this event's going to be great. It's going to be lots of people or whatever, and there isn't. And it's dealing with those sort of ups and downs. Obviously, you know, how do you deal with sort of on a daily basis, if, you know, the ups and downs of say disappointment or an expectation that doesn't quite happen?
That's actually what I've been doing some writing about today, and kind of, I guess around online dating and around the girl I've met, and does she like me, does she not, is she interested in the same thing I want, does she not? And again, just meditation and getting still and kind of quiet and kind of watching those thoughts kind of run around my head, and kind of trying to right size things as well. And kind of realizing that I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
But I'm a really crap control freak because I'd never get what I want. I'm just using up so much energy, and I'm kind of this writing I was doing, I was like, well, I realized how all or nothing I can be. And so okay, so with this kind of thing, so if I don't get what it's a positive attitude to this experience, me getting everything I want, is that what defining it as a positive experience needs to be? Or equally, does a negative experience, does that mean I didn't get everything I want or anything I want? So it's just kind of go, well, with this girl I met someone, I wanted to speak to her, I wanted to spend more time with her, and that's what I'm doing. And kind of because I just get really uncomfortable when I kind of get out of, and I feel out of control, and it's just kind of realizing I can never be kind of fully in control, really. But the way I kind of cope, kind of going back to the kind of process addictions, I can kind of rather than a lot of people act out, I act in. So I can kind of, by kind of withholding, I can actually be kind of fairly manipulative without kind of realizing it, by kind of staying quiet and not taking action. And it can be confusing because I don't even realizing that I'm doing it sometimes. So I'm kind of looking at the idea now. I'm doing a really interesting new online group, because just connect, as I say, doing groups and connecting with other people going through a similar thing. As a new thing called Unlikely Conversations. It's based in America, but occasionally online times work out here. And we were looking at what's the difference between responding and reacting. And kind of responding kind of has an idea of maybe being more gentle and calmer, more considered, whereas reacting is kind of more spontaneous and impulsive. And so it's kind of just taking a pause and just kind of okay, how am I reading this situation? Is this really what's kind of happening? And kind of, before I came on here, I think we were just talking about it just a couple of minutes before we went on live. I was kind of thinking, oh, when I'm talking, no one's going to be interested. No one likes me on this group. And I was like, where's any evidence to support any of that? There isn't any negative evidence. There isn't any positive evidence. Maybe there's a bit of positive evidence from the times I've kind of been on, but there isn't any evidence for that. And so it's just kind of realizing just how much I project and how much these thoughts are originating from within me, really. And as I said, meditation and just seeing those thoughts come and go, and just how they'll shift, and how when I was speaking to you, when you first mentioned this, and I was really in a very, very low place, that changed. I wasn't like that, but at the time, and I think that's when I can get very desperate, is when I feel like it's never going to change. And similarly, like we were saying before, being without a relationship, when I get in a really, really low place, I'm never going to meet anyone, it's never going to happen for me, suicidal ideation comes into my head kind of at that point. And it's kind of just catching myself and noticing, okay, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but all that, what that's saying to me, that's how much pain I'm in right now. and that may change and that may shift, and that will shift. And kind of again, like some things I was listening to just the past couple of days, this guy was talking about that hole you feel, you're never going to fill that. And in a kind of supportive way, it's a kind of like looking at that hole. And I kind of was writing about this hole today in some journaling, and I was kind of like thinking about kind of like flipping that hole upside down. If I flip that hole upside down, that's like a mound of pain. That maybe feels like a bit easier to kind of deal with that way. It's kind of more tangible rather than this void that is kind of so overwhelming. You're muted, Chris.
Yeah, so sort of almost like trying to reduce the mound rather than trying to fill it, rather than trying to fill a hole.
Or just kind of like, or kind of just observing that mound and kind of seeing what it contains, I guess, and just going, okay, oh, that's there. But yeah, gratitude lists as well. Those really help when I'm kind of focusing on what I don't have, and quite often writing. Usually, it's like you write 10 things you're grateful for. Usually, I keep on going, just like it's so much longer.
That's a really good thing to do there, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed the
really good.
I
you know, it's also making you think of the positive things, because I think the negative thoughts can often overpower the positive things. And in one sense, for example, you put something out and you get a bad review, or someone puts a critical comment about something. You know, you might have had 10 really good comments, and you get one. You tend to focus on that negative one.
It's the human nature, isn't it? That people do that. Yeah.
And if you're full of negative thoughts, you know, I guess until you sit down and write down all the positives, it's very difficult to conquer those sort of negative thoughts and realize that, okay, they're important, but they're not as important as I'm giving them time for, or as much concern that I'm giving them in my head. You know, I need to focus on the positives and what is good, and try and sort of not push them out, but sort of move them to one side.
Yeah, well, that's an actual thing, as Mark said. Like, it's an actual way that humans have evolved, and I'm reaching the kind of wall of my ignorance here, so I'll try not to pretend like I know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's negativity bias. Like, we've kind of evolved because like the most important thing we needed to be able to do was kind of survive and kind of notice what the difference in our surroundings was around us, and we couldn't afford to be wrong about the situation. If we're kind of like being hunted or prey, or another kind of group of people are threatening us, we can't afford to be wrong at all. So we've got to like go with that kind of suspicion and hunch that there's something not right here. But like, unfortunately, our brains haven't evolved too much since then, and so they're almost in overdrive, trying to now apply them to situations that kind of warrant that, really. And then you kind of come into kind of then unhelpful coping mechanisms that we kind of have developed individually, maybe, and it becomes kind of self-sabotaging then.
Yeah, I'm just putting up something that Paul put, because I think that sort of feeds into what you're saying, isn't it? You know, it's the thought process when things are going great. I kind of mentally prepare myself for something going wrong, and I do it. I certainly, you know, you sort of think, you know, okay, something's going too well, you know, something bad's going to happen, and it's letting those bad thoughts seep in and not living in the moment in a way. And again, I think that's quite a difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's kind of just doing this writing around this thing today. It's kind of just looking at, writing it down, journaling, getting it out of my head, to be honest, and noticing what's really happening around me rather than what my head's telling me, because my head's just trying to protect me, but it's kind of can do it in a really unhelpful way sometimes.
I think I've done journaling as well, because I think it's I was always told that when you're doing that writing, it's a different part of your brain is functioning, so you're truer. And there's another thing I did once. We were taught, whatever hand you are, but I did left hand writing, rather than right. So it depends on what your dominant hand is. If you're ambidextrous, I don't know what you're going to do, but they said to write. So you write in this journal or something in your left hand, and it's very. You think, oh, that's just nonsense, but it doesn't, because you're so concentrating on trying to write with your left hand. So all the subconscious stuff is actually coming out. And have you done that, Jody?
Yeah, I've done that.
It's really, really powerful, and it's amazing. And it's something I have not done for a while, thankfully. But I've gone to writing journals and writing it down, because it's actually getting it out there. Because particularly if you're on your own and you haven't got anyone to talk to, that is your way, I think, of talking. You're writing it down, and then if you read it back, I've found sometimes if you read it back, and then you can actually analyse it more yourself and actually think, well, actually, what I'm thinking there isn't actually correct, is it? It might, the way I'm viewing myself, I can be critical of, not critical is not the right word, but I can analyse it and say, well, maybe that's not the way people look at me. Because I've always had sort of not a body image, but a view of how people view me, which is not necessarily the truth, because like I say, I'm not very good at self-esteem either, really, and I'm better at it as I ever was, because I've done, being on the radio, and I've done improv as well, which that's put you in quite a vulnerable position, you stand up on the stage, and I've done 15, 20 shows, and you go on stage for 2 hours and you don't know what you're going to do until you step on it. And that's quite good. That's first time you do it, it's the most terrifying thing you've ever done in your life.
I bet.
And then you can't wait to do it every time, because it's such a buzz. And that really doing something like that really does help self-esteem, because someone you go on stage and someone laughs at something you say, it's really, really nice. Sometimes it goes completely wrong, but that's part of it as well. It's all part of the process. So I know my self-esteem is better than it was, because I can do that. And 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I think I was told to do. Last time I had therapy, it was about 6 years ago. And the woman said to me, have you ever tried doing drama? And I thought, what? You got to be kidding. And anyway, I talked to a mate of mine who ran an improv group, and he said, people come to me all the time, come along. And I the first time I made an excuse. I said, I'll come next term, Lee. And he said, no, you won't. You're coming next week. You're coming. And I went, and it's like, wow, blimey, this is good. And it was such an amazing thing, because everybody's in the same position as you, and I think, and it just made me realise, I don't know, not that you're worthy. It's not the right thing to say, but I don't know. It just helped with my self-esteem so much to do something like that. And I think DJing, it can be seen in the same way.
Yeah.
If you've got a room full of people, then I remember playing. I did a friend's 50th. A couple of years ago, and just dropping on every woman by Chaka Khan, and the whole dance floor went bang. And you think, oh, cool. And it's such a good feeling. I mean, you must know what it's like, you two, when you're DJing. It is such a good feeling when people dance to what you're playing.
Yeah, that is the best feeling. Obviously, it's one thing we're all sort of lacking at the moment.
The opposite, when you play a record, you think, oh, she's going to be a good record in the dance floor.
Yeah.
That's quite funny, but
it's there's a couple of interesting comments in the chat, and an interesting question, I think, from Ingrid. So I'm just going to find it. Do you think there needs to be more spaces for men to share their thoughts and feelings safely?
Thanks, Louise. That's my flatmate.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. I think that's. I mean, I saw some of the comments. I think Rob said that Mr. Lobb said there's places in Australia that do the same. I think it has to be the right. Yeah, I think it has to be done in the right way. I mean, if they said, "Oh, there's a place you can go to, and all you men come along and you talk about your feelings," then no one's going to go, are they? But if it's a supportive atmosphere where maybe they're doing other stuff as well, then as a process of that, people might start talking about, and there's people there. I think some of those places you might need professionals there, because there are, there are people who might need serious help, and some bloke goes, "Oh, just pull your socks up, mate." It's not going to work, is it? But I think it can only be a good idea. Yeah, definitely.
There's a thing called the Mankind Project. It's got kind of dodgy write-ups in the newspaper because they kind of have a bit of a strange, I think, initiation process, which is like involves going on a weekend with lots of other guys and involves, I think, being naked in the forest for a bit, which has yeah,
that's the initiation process.
Yeah,
What happens after that?
About that. Yeah, I guess just to check that you are a man or something. I don't know.
Right.
But that's reminded me. There's an amazing documentary called The Work that was on the BBC, and it's like 4 regular guys go into one of the most dangerous prisons in America to do group therapy with them, and a selection of convicts who are on kind of, I don't know about death row, but are going to be in prison for the rest of their life for some of the damage that they've caused through their actions, through their anger. And they kind of go into kind of breakout groups, and the prisoners or convicts are more experienced in this, and they're introducing it to the different guys. And they just kind of have a process of getting in a big group and circle together and kind of connecting with one another. And if one is kind of maybe triggered off by another one, they kind of go into, they kind of go into kind of what's the data, as in kind of what's the actual facts that you know about this, and then what's the judgment, what are you projecting onto this person. And then they kind of like, the 2 men are standing opposite one another. Each one can kind of like have 1 or 2 guys just kind of literally supporting them, holding their shoulders, supporting them, and they'll kind of do this kind of process of just speaking it out of what's going on for them. And it's really powerful because like all this rage and anger and pain comes out of these guys, and they have to have 5-6 huge guys pinning these men down because of that sheer energy and anger that is coming out of them, that has possibly caused them to end up killing people or murdering people or doing severe harm to themselves and others. And I saw this at a documentary festival, and I was just kind of like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I spoke to one of the guys who made it, and straight after, and he could see that I'd done a lot of work on myself, and he's like, okay, you've not been to the initiation, but once a month someone that has can bring a guest. So I went to one of these groups and took part in it, and I came out of it just for that evening, just like my mind had been kind of washed. It was just a really powerful experience. So I maybe didn't sell it with the initial initiation process, but that kind of project is out there, and the documentary is definitely worth watching if you can find it. I may be able to send you where to see it if you can't find it.
Yeah, well, I think with men, isn't it? A lot of our emotions come out as anger, and it's, I don't know if that comes from from a young age of not being encouraged to express our emotions as little boys. In the day you're brought up and you're supposed to be strong, and oh, don't cry, or the old sort of terrible comment, you're crying like a girl, ridiculous things like that you just can't say and you wouldn't say now. But whereas when a lot of us grew up, that was sort of something that was said, and that's I think why a lot of men, our emotions are sort of hidden away, and it's only now with age I think emotions are sort of starting to come out, and like this, talking about important stuff, deep conversations about what's going on in our heads, which maybe even a few years ago wasn't happening as so much. It's an opening up of society, which I think can only be a good thing.
I think it's definitely improving. I mean, I've seen over the last, say, when I first started going to therapy, and I went to these groups, there was probably a class of about 20 people, and I think 3 of us were blokes. Everyone else was a woman. Because I think men just didn't do that kind of stuff. You know, I remember not being ridiculed by my mates, or not, because they never did, because they're all very nice people. But people never asked, "How you getting on at this? How's it going?" Because guys don't. But I've noticed over the years that doesn't happen now. That's a lot. Men, even guys my age, I'm 55, and even guys my age will actually ask their mates, how you doing? Or whatever, how you feeling about that, or whatever. People talk, and I'm not brilliant at it. I mean, I still sometimes you don't. I think you have to be in the right place to ask that question sometimes.
And it's knowing what sort of reaction you're going to get. I mean, I've got mates, and we go out and we have a few beers and whatever, and you think, okay, yeah, we're here just to have a bit of a laugh, and you don't. It's almost like, right, you don't want to drop something serious that's going on, because the sort of thing that you might ruin whatever good feelings are. Like, for example, I'm not hugely into football, but I imagine, obviously, if you're into football and you're going to go and see your mates, you're going to go and talk about the game, about players, whoever's playing and all the rest of it, and you suddenly drop something serious in, like, I'm not feeling great today, I'm struggling, I'm really suffering with something. It's not knowing what reaction you're going to get, because a lot of your mates might not know how to react to it, and may simply say, like we've already said today, "Oh, I'm sure you'll be fine. You'll be fine," or sort of brush it off, or, "Oh, did you see that goal?" or whatever. And I think, as talking to my wife again, as women, if a woman goes to a woman, not being sexist, or
women are just better at us in this kind of thing.
If a woman goes to a woman and says, "I'm struggling," that woman will listen and say, "Okay, well, what is it?" I think with men, some men don't know how to deal with it. I think a lot of men don't know how to deal with it, or how to react. And I don't. I feel much more. It's weird. I feel much more comfortable talking about this stuff to you guys, who I've only known for a short period of time, than perhaps some of my closer friends. And it's.
I think that's very, very true. I think that's very true. That's why when you go to a therapist, I don't know if Jody has the same feeling as me about this, but it's much easier to talk to that person because you don't know them.
Yeah.
They don't know you. They don't know your background. So all you're doing is you're talking about that particular problem. There's no baggage involved at all with what you're talking about. If you've got a mate, I mean, it's different. I mean, I've got one particular. I met this person on this course, so I know that we can talk about stuff if we're feeling bad, because I've known him for 20 years, and we met on a therapy course, so we were there for the same kind of reasons. So I know that if I ever felt a bit rough about something, I can talk to her about it, and likewise she can talk to me, and we've both been through stuff, and she'll come round to mine and we'll sit there and have a chat. Or she will message me and say, whatever, going up. We used to meet, not since lockdown really, but we'd meet for lunch every so often and have a chat. And it's but that's unusual with with friends, because you've got a different relationship with them. Because I think as you as a person as well, you don't want to put your problems onto them. You don't want to make them feel. I always feel like this. You don't necessarily want to make them feel bad by putting your problems on them, so you don't talk about it. But with someone who you don't know, that's not quite so much of a problem, really. And if they're a paid professional, then that's completely different, because that's what their job is. But that's why you can talk to them. I'm not putting this very well, but that's why you can talk to them easier, because you don't know them and you haven't got that relationship and that baggage about.
Yeah.
Because they do their thing, and then that's it. And then I know that a professional therapist has therapy all the time, because obviously they're hearing lots of stuff, and they can't have all that stuff in their head. They have to get out as well. So I think that's probably maybe why we're reticent to talk to our as guys. I mean, women.
Louise again, because again, quite an interesting one, and it's I don't know, this isn't a men's show or anything like that, because we've got some women coming on the show. I don't know if she's the only one woman, but a very interesting point she makes. I don't know if that's true. My mum has brushed my feelings off many times. It's generational, often more than gendered. And then the follow-up, I also think it's to do with class or how you're raised, intersectional, and how people react and receive you showing through. Again, I wasn't saying about being, generalizing, but I think that's a valid point, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know how close, Jody, I know you said that, quite a lot of your family have struggled with some of the issues that you've got. I mean, are you able to talk to them openly about everything that's going on, or some of what's going on in your mind?
Well, yeah, as I say, like that's maybe where it comes from. I need to be careful with how much I share with who, and kind of how much I share on here and this broadcast and recorded, really. But yeah, I am open with my family, and yeah, kind of they also see all the work I'm doing on myself as well. And my sister kind of she reposted the Instagram post for this, and in her story said a really nice thing that I didn't really know really about how much I've kind of influenced her to kind of do work on herself and to kind of like get honest and with herself and things. But and then what's kind of maybe interesting in a way, there's like, yeah, each I'm trying to work out if I'm telling too much. Like the only person in my family immediately to have not had clinical depression, as in be prescribed antidepressants, is now a psychotherapist. And so kind of like it's the inverse. It's kind of just like, oh, you've never been depressed, you've never been depressed, you've never been depressed. But okay, but they have lived their entire life pretty much of having at least one member of her family at some point. And so, yeah, going to the intergenerational thing, it feeds kind of down like toxic shame, really. If it's not sorted or addressed in one generation of my family, like because yeah, I think both, but certainly one side of my family, grandparents, there was kind of a lot of stuff going on there that kind of. And that was kind of a certain period, and so that wasn't addressed. And then when my parents grew up in the 50s, that wasn't addressed, and so it kind of comes down to like me and my siblings, and like we really don't want it to continue down to our family, really, when we have them. So
I think it might be spotted a lot sooner these days, I think. So I think, I mean, when we were at school, I mean, I was at school I left school in 81, which is a long, long while ago. But, there was nothing. We didn't have any sort of school counsellors or stuff like that. It wasn't even thought about, it wasn't. The whole concept of mental illness in the late 70s and the early 80s wasn't even a thing. Because people, no one, the only people, you heard people, the odd pop star who killed themselves or whatever. People like Sid Vicious, and you had people like Ian Curtis and stuff like that. And that's the only time you ever heard about it. But it wasn't a thing that anybody ever came into contact with. But I think now, I've got young nieces, and I know that probably at their schools, they've had school counsellors and they have advocates, and they become advocates, and if there's a student might be an advocate, so someone can go and talk to them about a problem, and it's so much more inclusive these days. Yeah. So I can only be hopeful that a lot of that toxicity that's been about in the past, and it's not toxicity might be a too strong a word, because that in some respects that sort of makes it purposeful, but it's not. And I think it's just ignorance, and I'm not talking about blind ignorance. I'm talking about people just don't understand it, and don't understand there's a problem. So it's never addressed. And I think that now it's really not as bad.
But people are quite afraid of what they don't understand. It's going back to my point of trying to fix something. If you don't understand what someone's going through, or if you don't understand what's going on in their life, or with their mental health, you feel almost like, well, why don't I, or what can I do? I can't help them. I don't know how to relate, and I think that's quite difficult as well. I think talking about it, and certainly what we've talked about today, is hearing about what other people have gone through, and how they've dealt with it, and I think again that's why it's important. And Kev put a thing, thanks to everyone for being so open. Definitely need more talking about, and talking is really important. Tommy put a comment up earlier, which was great. Let me see if I can get back to it here. He says, how's it going? It's not a serious enough question. We mostly just say fine, even when we're not. I was talking to you two the other day about watching there was a Roman Kemp documentary on BBC about him losing one of his best mates. And just not realizing, he's with him sort of day in, day out, happy-go-lucky guy, and just didn't see the signs. He lived like 3 minutes down the doors. I know you said it's difficult for you guys to watch because, for example, Jody, you've been through it, and Mark, you know that sort of things. But if anyone hasn't been through it or hasn't got any experience of it, it's certainly worth watching. But one of the things he said in his group, because they're all quite young lads, he's I'd say probably late 20s, maybe early 30s. I don't know.
I think he's 30.
Yeah, he's quite a big celebrity apparently. It's not someone who's within my sort of knowledge. He's Martin Kemp's son. But he was saying that they have the sort of double question. So when they see their mates, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. No, but are you okay? And it's that second question which sort of says, right, okay, are you really okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? And I think that's something that's quite important to take away.
Yes.
And I think it is very easy, and it's almost the question you put. I do it myself. You send a message to someone, you say, "Oh, hope you're okay." Almost like an assumption that they're okay, rather than asking, how are you doing? Are you are you well? Are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk about?
That's a good point. I mean, I equate that to something that happened to me today. When you go to Tesco or whatever, and you're at the checkout, are you okay with your packing? Which means, don't you dare ask me to help you. But I hope you're okay, because you're wanting that answer. Yes, I do. Yes, I'm fine. That's what you want from that answer, and it's not the right question. Yeah, it's very, very valid, I think.
Yeah, and I think again, well, Adrian's put it in. I found with younger customers they're way more open than our age, and I think that's probably true. I think it's again partly our upbringing, isn't it, in a way? So. Right, I think we're going to move on to a couple of other things. So, Mark, last time you asked in the last show an interesting question about 45s. Obviously, we all play 45, so we might as well talk about them at some point. And you asked about what 45s sort of lift your spirits. So, I think you said you managed to get it down to 4, maybe.
I got 4, yeah. It was very difficult because I think it depends on your mood.
Yeah.
Just playing a record can make you feel great. But there's a couple of here that really, really never fail to lift my spirits. First one is, you probably can't see it. It's Spiral Staircase, More Today Than Yesterday. Just okay. Northern's American, all American white band, but it's very Northern soul banger, which I think is always it's just a great tune. Another one, It's a Shame by the Motown Spinners. It's one of those records. It's got such a great hook. It's got such a great intro. It's got a brilliant chorus. It just makes you happy, and it's a record that I love, and I'll play and play and play. And this one, it's not funk and soul, but it's a record that I bought when it came out in 1978. So I've had this record for 43 years. Cruel to Be Kind by Nick Lowe.
Okay.
I don't know if you know the tune.
But that's what this is all about, learning about new music.
It's just it's a song about the lyrics about him being binned off by some woman, and she's saying, basically, I've got to be cruel to be kind. That's what it's about. And the fact that I could keep you hanging on, but I'm just going to get rid of you because that's the best thing. And he's trying to come to terms with that. But it's a real happy up tune. And if you look on YouTube, there's a version of it where he does it with Daryl Hall in Daryl Hall's. It's got a show he does on YouTube, and him and Daryl Hall do it, and it's just incredible, brilliant. And the final one is one that I didn't really know about really until a couple of months ago, and through Electron, and it's "Tears Dry on Their Own" by Amy Winehouse, and that's a double-edged sword because my favourite record of all time is "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" by Tammy Terrell and Marvin Gaye, but I haven't got 200 quid to buy that on Seven because it's really expensive for some ridiculous reason. It just goes for fortunes. But that is basically the tune from that. So they've recreated a sample from it. Again,
is that in the box set?
That's the box set. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. That's a beautiful.
Yeah.
Not,
I mean,
it's
most I've ever spent on vinyl, 100 quid that was, but worth every penny because all 12 of those sevens are absolutely brilliant. And
I think about it this way: if you bought 12 sevens, it'd be more than 100.
That's right. It works at 8 quid each. So that's the way I've justified it to myself. It's really cheap. That yeah, it's worth the money. But those are my four. Just those four never fail to just give me a smile. Hairs on the back of your neck, or whatever you want to call it. But they're great.
Yeah. Jody, I'll come back to you for the songs in a minute, but I just want to put again, thanks, Louise. It's been great having you comment. It's an interesting comment but I've had a friend come to me lately for help. She never talks about this stuff openly. I just think being someone who openly talks about your health means people will know your door's open and you understand. So well done for sharing here, guys. So that's a really valid point, and I hope that anyone who's watching this, even now or in the replay, thinks that at any time you can talk to any of us.
Yeah,
I'm here. If you want to drop me a message, you want to talk about anything, then just message me. We're all busy, but we're all happy and able to make time for friends, because we are all friends, and we're all here to support. And that goes to everyone, and I'm sure that applies to anyone who's in this chat, anyone who's part of the 45 Kings. Just message someone, or just are you free for a chat, or can I talk to you about something? And then hopefully whatever it is, even if it's just listening for a bit, that's going to help.
But sometimes it's what's needed, isn't it? It's just I know myself that it's not necessarily you want anyone to give you any advice or give you anything. You just need to vent a bit sometimes, and that in itself can make you feel a whole lot better because you've got it out of your head.
Yeah, and just knowing you're not alone with it, really, because that's when that stuff hurts the most. Really, is the difference between being lonely and feeling alone. Really, or the difference between feeling lonely and actually being alone.
Yeah. They're different things, aren't they? Being alone sometimes is actually quite a good thing, but being lonely isn't.
You sometimes need it, don't you? You do sometimes need it a little bit.
Yeah, but the worst time can be when you're with people and feeling lonely.
Oh yeah,
you never feel more disconnected.
Yeah. Really. Well, it comes back a little bit to I need to find it again, but Adrian said he finds it interesting that quite a few DJs have self-esteem. Here we go. Let's find it. I find it fascinating that a lot of DJs have low self-esteem or have social anxiety, but can play music to a group of strangers. I wonder what that drives. Must be the thing. But again, that's the same thing, isn't it? You're not alone because you're with 10, 50, 100 people to whatever it is, but you might be feeling lonely in terms of I don't really feel like I can connect with any of these people. I don't really want to put myself out there. I don't want to connect with these people, and it is a strange movement to then move on to Twitch where we are putting ourselves out there and making ourselves very vulnerable. But
I think for me personally, as I say, if I'm at a party or in a pub or at a club or wherever, I find it difficult if I go on my own, and I usually would go on my own along, and I see a group of people, even if I know them, I don't like to go up to them and break into that thing, because I think, well, what if they don't want to talk to me? They're talking to their friends, and I'm imposing upon them. But if you're on the DJ stand and you're putting records on, then you're connecting with them in a different way, and it's a different thing. They've come along to a pub to listen to some music and to dance, so they're already there for that. So you're not imposing upon them unless they don't like the music. But then you always get the one person who asks for a stupid record, don't you? Everybody gets that.
I'm certainly not missing that from DJing out. I'm certainly not sort of drunk.
I remember once I was DJing at a party and I was playing jazz dance and funk, and someone come up and asked me for Bryan Adams, and you think, no. I said, "Oh, have you got any? Have you got any Cilla Black?" Then, I said, no. He said, "Can I have a look through your records and see if you've got anything good?" I went, well, no.
Yeah.
Right. But no one misses that.
No, I think one of the strange things we were DJing in some sort of like basement club where I live, and it was like a hip hop funk, a bit dancey, and this guy said, "Oh yeah, you know what would be great now is a bit of Erasure," and I was like, "Well, I haven't got it, and it's not really going to fit in with this." And then I had one of the guys from Get It Together in Worthing come over to DJ another thing, and again it's hip hop night, so I was outside telling one of the DJs about this story. And then we went back in, and literally within 5 minutes, someone came up and go, "Oh, I know you're playing hip hop, but you know what'd be great here is if you dropped Erasure." And I was like, "I can't." Are you serious?
Arrange a fan club in for the evening.
Suddenly everyone thinks I'm playing Erasure, but it's I mean that's a whole nother comments from DJs. Right, Jody, we're going to go back to you for any of your 45s that sort of lift your spirits.
Again, kind of like Mark and like anyone, like I had kind of that was just one grab at first. I don't need to go through those. This one was it Dandy Livingston. Think about that.
Okay.
So upbeat reggae. But yeah, I'm surprised if you don't know that one. That would go down well in your set.
I'll dig that one out if I haven't got it.
And I actually found that going through my brother's iTunes, so kind of a bit like in tinge of like, oh, would I know about this tune but it's a really nice upbeat one. And then I know you do have this one, but you play the wrong side maybe, or no, you don't play the wrong side. That's All My Love, Lack of Afro.
Oh, that's a great record.
B-side, Joss Stone. Is Joss Stone on the other side?
Sorry, I was wrong. That's the other one. That's the blue label, and this is the other side. Is I Got the Rhythm, Elliot Cole.
Oh yeah, I haven't got. Yeah, I've got the blue. Yeah.
I'm stunned by Elliot Cole because he looks like Harry Potter and sings like Marvin Gaye. It's like one of those like it's such a juxtaposition. I saw him live and he's like this little tiny bloke with glasses, and he's like, where does that voice come from? It's absolutely incredible.
I've got Man of Mine, Betty Wright, who I absolutely love, like all the stuff. And then just a special mention, the latest one is the James Brown Can't Get Any Harder, which I have to thank Fat Wax 45 for, because I just listened to that and that just really gets me going. And like back to online kind of dating when I'm kind of just kind of feeling like I'm not in connection with myself or feeling like a bit unsure of myself. I'll play some records. If I'm on my way to meet somebody, then I'll just stick my iTunes on and just play my music, because that's authentically me, that I can't argue with. It's like, the music that I like and love and enjoy, and the experiences that the kind of records have for me. Like I can remember most people I know the songs they like, so I can make sure when I'm playing at a gig and they're there that I know to play them. Yeah,
that's good. I haven't had time to dig mine out because I've moved my studio around this weekend, but I think there's a couple. There's basically anything by Havana Meets Kingston. I think they've only actually released 2 7s, but it just brings back memories for me, because obviously I went to see them with my wife in Albert Hall and saw them at Glastonbury, and it's anything that connects with you for music, isn't it? And just brings back some sort of good feeling. And then the other probably the Prodigy Charlie, just because back in my younger days we were going out raving and going to sort of like illegal beach parties and stuff like that. That's what was there, and that it immediately transports you back to part. There's something in your brain, isn't there? And there's a lot to do with, is it Parkinson's, I think, isn't it? That they play music and then Alzheimer's.
No, it's Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it brings
part of your brain. I mean, I've seen some amazing things where there are people who have got Alzheimer's and they don't even, remember their family, but put in front of a piano and they play piano and they can play a tune. It's like, because they just think, well, it's a different part of the brain that's working, and so they can try and tap into that, and that can actually be beneficial to their memory as well, because it's just a different thing. Yeah, incredible.
You have a weird thing that I sometimes can remember exactly where I heard a song. Of like multiple tunes. Yeah, I don't know where I get that memory from, but something's just deep down in me that takes me back.
I've got a thing in a moment. Sorry, Criztoz. I've got a thing in a moment. There's a radio station that's just arrived on the internet called Boom Radio, and it plays lots of sort of old rock records and old bits of old Tamara and stuff. And there's a DJ on there called Nicky Horn, and I used to listen to Nicky Horn when I was about 13, under my covers when I wasn't meant to be listening to the radio. And he played all sort of rock stuff, like Springsteen and Bob Dylan and the Eagles and all that stuff. And he's been playing stuff on this radio station, so I've been listening to it just for memories. And it's like, he played a tune. I can remember when I first heard that. I was 13 years old, underneath my covers with my tranny underneath my pillow, listening to it. So my mum and dad wouldn't know I was doing it. And it's like, that memory is so acute. And I don't know anything else that does that other than music, really. It's just so, it just puts you back to that time when you first heard it.
It's really strange, I mean, Daft Punk. I've been a huge fan of Daft Punk for ages, and luckily seen him a couple of times live. But the funk, I remember, I was at university in Bristol, and I was working in like a Texaco garage or something, and it just came on the radio. They're like, "Oh, a new tune from some French duo, or whatever," and it was the funk, and I just, it just stuck with me, and it's, it takes me back to that every time you hear it, and it's amazing what music does, and we're lucky. We're very privileged that we can enjoy it and share it with other people. Right, I'm just going to see before we move on to one final thing. Is there any questions that anyone would like to ask Mark or Jody or even myself? Put them in the chat and we'll see. I don't know if Danny's still here asking about biscuits, but
he's probably gone down the shop to buy some ginger nuts.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see for a minute. But yes, I said we'd talk about confectionery corner. I know, Mark, you've had them. Jody, have you tried the Snickers peanut butter?
Hang a second.
The Snickers peanut butter what?
It's like a new bar they've got, peanut butter cream, I think it is. There we go. If you like Snickers, if you like peanut butter, these are amazing.
They are.
Yeah, I actually made the adverts for them in America. I worked on commercials, and I was a video editor.
Okay, interesting. I didn't even know that.
Specialized that the director worked on chocolate commercials, so we worked on the actual kind of 4 seconds of the creation of the chocolate kind of bar itself, which is done with models and things like that. And they spend, it's really backwards to me, but that's I think the most important part of when you're seeing a chocolate commercial is the actual chocolate itself, but they only save about 4 seconds for the commercial, but they spend about the same on that as the live action. So yeah, I'm very familiar with those because you get lots of free samples and
this is fantastic. Oh, they are amazing now, and they're nice straight. If you have them in the fridge, all the peanut butter bit gets all crunchy, but if you leave them out of the fridge, it's all soft and squishy. And so you've got 2 for the price of 1, really. They are. Yeah. I've had my 1 today. I can't have any more.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Louis. Lincoln biscuits. They don't.
I do remember Lincoln biscuits. Yeah.
What are they? I don't remember what they are.
Weren't they some kind of? Am I getting confused? I don't remember the name. I'm trying to remember what they were like. I know there was the question that Danny asked. Was it nice or nice? But when writing in the chat room. It looks like nice. Yeah, I do remember Lincoln, but I can't remember what they were like.
I've never heard of them myself. And Louise is probably the youngest person in the room, so it shouldn't be something we've forgotten about.
Well, maybe it's just completely missed us.
Yeah. But yeah, Mr. Lob said about Tim Tams. Those are amazing. If you don't know those are, I want to say Australian penguins, but they're much better than penguins. And they got lots of different flavors like caramel. So whenever you go over there as a POM to Australia, you come back with suitcases full of Tim Tams.
I got a mate of mine who goes to Japan quite a lot, and we didn't believe him, but it's true. In Japan, they have Kit Kat shops that only sell Kit Kat because they've got hundreds of different types of Kit Kat. Because Kit Kat means good luck in Japanese. So therefore they love them, and so you get. I mean, he's brought loads back from me. I mean, I've had like green tea Kit Kats and sake Kit Kats, and they're all amazing. But they're starting to filter through here. You get a few different flavors. But Australia, Japan, you actually get whole shops. The only thing they sell are Kit Kats.
I'm just going to put this one in because this has come from Kev Clark. Apparently, the correct way to eat chocolate digestive chocolate side down. That comes probably. Ramesh Ranganathan, have you watched?
Yeah. I've heard them do that. Yeah.
So basically, he's saying that obviously the chocolate hits your tongue, and that's obviously the better way to eat a chocolate digestive rather than.
I'm not convinced, to be honest. No,
I can tell where he's going. But then he had who was it? Jamie from Made in Chelsea, and I think his uncle or his granddad or something runs the digestive empire or something, and then. He didn't have a decent answer for him, but right, okay. Unless anyone else has got any more questions that are not necessarily biscuit related, I'm going to put a couple of things up just to let people know what else is coming up. Right, next week we are back with 45 Raiders. We've got Mixter Hoffman, Sahara Kitchen, Shaka Loves You, Sam Tweaks Me, and Cut Class. If you haven't checked out Jody's set from the last 45 Raiders, you need to. It's amazing. He puts in an audio visual extravaganza. I think it said it messaged me saying, "Oh yeah, can I have the logo? I'm going to do something a bit like MTV or something." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds interesting." And then he dropped in.
Mind blown.
Well, I mean, I like all the shows we do, and it's a bit like. Children, you can't have a favorite child, can't have a favorite show, but I do like 45 Raiders, and we mentioned Tommy T earlier and his 45s that still hasn't been beaten. I don't think anyone's going to get anywhere near it. Right, a question from Double P. Are we going to do a raid for mental health? Yes, I mean we already do one on the last Sunday of each month, which is That's AR sort of set up, and that's Sunday 7s. This week is a bit of a flip. We normally do Reggae Fire, then Sideshow and Co for a couple of hours, and then That's AR. We've got a USA live stream, 45 Kings channel on Sunday night. So we're starting with, I think it's Sideshow first, and then it's That's AR. Each time we raise money for a different charity, and this time it's for Calm, which was interesting because you mentioned that as well, Jody, earlier. So yeah, on Sunday there is an all-day. Not quite a raid train, but there's an all-day stream last Sunday of each month. And yes, Double P, we should do something. Maybe you've been talking about doing a 24-hour one. There's no reason why we can't turn your Double P's raid train into the 24-hour one and do it as for mental health charity or a couple of mental health charities.
Yeah. I wondered what he meant when he said raid train for mental. I wondered if we were just raiding to each other's channels as we each had a breakdown one day.
Yeah. So person over there's talking about mental health. We'll all go there as well.
Yeah. We've got so Double Piece, which remind me he's on I haven't got it all in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly who's on at the moment. And then what else have we got? 45 Funksters, that's the funk show I do with Sideshow. We've got Lady Melza, Sideshow, Butchie B and me. And then the next one, episode 3 of Part of My Journey, features Mr. Lob and Ouija, because obviously Rob's in Melbourne and the time difference, that's going to be a bit later. if you can't join us later, then obviously you can watch it back on the replay, but that's 10 o'clock till 11 or however long we go on the 12th of April. And then there's more episodes lined up in the future. But as I put earlier in the chat, if you'd like to talk about mental health issues, there's many charities you can. There's mind.org.uk, timetochange.org, Mental Health Samaritans, the Calm Zone, UK Movember, and plenty more. And like we said earlier, if you ever want to talk to any of us, anyone in the group, then
Whisper or people know me on Facebook or whatever. It's always just a message or whatever. Just drop us a line, or Instagram. I think we're all connected with each other in different ways, because not everybody's on Facebook and not everyone's on Instagram, but we are all connected in some way, I think.
Yeah. A final plug for 45 Day, that's coming up 4th of May, not long now. I think most of you had it out from me. I'm quite got to announce in the live stream yet, but it's going to be pretty good. Right. Before I say goodbye, we're just going to find someone. I assume Sam's playing. Sam playing at the moment? I can't see immediately.
Yeah, Sam is playing.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to say hello to Sam.
Yeah.
And then I'll just set the raid train and then we'll get that going. God, raiding is so nerve-wracking most of the time. I remember making a mistake on one and it was just annoying. I just kicked myself afterwards. I was like, I spelled the guy's bloody name wrong.
I've got the hang of hosting. I can do that bit now, but I wouldn't know how to raid.
Okay. Yeah, that raid's going. Okay, so we've got about a minute and a half.
Thanks so much for everyone for sticking around. But like, this conversation was longer than some films. I just realised.
Absolutely. Not as long as them in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I watched it the weekend. It's 4 hours long. 4 hours. I'm never going to get back.
We didn't quite have a budget for that.
No, not yet. We'll get some CGI going for the next one. But yeah, I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you so much, for coming.
Thank you very much for
being open enough to talk about a lot of really important and interesting things. And hopefully it's helped someone in some way. And we can long go on and talk a lot more. It's important. Absolutely. And I think it's helped me. It's helped you, I hope. And thanks to everyone in the chat. You make it worthwhile, and a lot of really interesting comments. And it's great that you spend your time listening to us.
Well, thanks very much, Criztoz, for inviting me on, and obviously Double P for actually coming up with the idea in the first place. It's it's
inspiring the show. We'll get him back. Right, I think we're just about to go, so enjoy the rest of your evenings. Say hello to Sam, and I'll see you all in the stream soon.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Easy.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Right, I'm going to end the broadcast.